Jidenna, the man who smiled at funerals. Part 2, the spirit that would not cross. The wake of shadows. The wakekeeping lasted through the night. Mourners gathered, their voices rising in sorrowful songs, the flames of their torches flickering like restless spirits. Palm wine flowed freely, and the air was thick with the scent of burning incense. But Jidenna sat apart, his heart weighed down by something heavier than grief. He could still see Dike. His uncle's spirit lurked at the edge of the gathering, half hidden in the darkness. But it was not the spirit of a man ready to cross into the afterlife. Dike's eyes glowed an unnatural red, and his face, once kind, once strong, was now twisted in rage and sorrow. "Why?" Jidenna whispered, gripping his opie knife. No one else could see him. No one else could hear the whispers of the dead. Only Jidenna. And in that moment, he knew one terrible truth: Dike was trapped. The mark of the cursed. As the mourners wept and poured libations for the dead, Jidenna stood and moved toward the shadows where his uncle's spirit waited. "Uncle," he called softly. Dike's ghost turned, his movements unnatural, his body flickering like smoke caught in the wind. His lips parted, but no words came, only a low, guttural whisper that made the hairs on Jidenna's arms rise. "You should not be here," Jidenna said, his voice steady despite the fear coiling in his chest. "It is time to cross the bridge." The spirit's lips twisted into something that was almost a smile, but his eyes remained filled with torment. Then, without warning, Dike lunged forward. Jidenna stumbled back as a freezing wind rushed past him, knocking over one of the torches. The flames hissed, and the mourners gasped, unaware of what had truly happened. Then Jidenna saw it. Etched into Dike's spectral chest was a blackened mark, pulsing like a wound that would not heal. A mark he had seen once before, in an old story told by the village elders. The mark of the cursed dead. Dike had not simply died, he had been claimed. 3. The priest warning. At dawn, after the wake had ended, Jidenna sought out Obi, the oldest priest in Izigu. The man's heart smelled of camwood and old incense, and his wrinkled hands shook as he traced patterns in the dust. "A spirit that will not cross," the priest repeated, his brow furrowing. Jidenna nodded. "He bears the mark of the cursed." At those words, the old man's eyes darkened. "This is no ordinary wandering spirit, Jidenna. A soul marked in such a way is bound to something unnatural. You must not speak to him again." Jidenna's fist clenched. "I cannot abandon him. He raised me. He is my blood." The priest sighed and dipped his fingers into a bowl of white chalk, drawing a symbol on the ground. "If he is cursed, then his death was not natural. His spirit is ensnared, bound by something stronger than death itself." He looked up. "Find out how he died. Only then can you set him free." Whispers in the market. Jidenna's feet carried him back to the marketplace where his uncle had collapsed just days before. The place was alive with the usual bustle, women haggling over yams, men drinking from gourds of palm wine, children weaving through the crowd. But Jidenna was not looking for the living. He was listening for whispers of the dead. He found an old woman selling kola nuts near where Dike had fallen. "Mama, did you see what happened?" he asked. She glanced at him, her face tight with weariness. he just fell. Like a tree struck by lightning. Did he say anything before he died? The woman hesitated. Yes, he did. He clutched his chest and whispered a name. Jidenna leaned in. What name? Her voice dropped to a whisper. Obika. A shiver passed through Jidenna. Obika, the man Dike had once called brother, but who had died years ago under mysterious circumstances. Why would Dike speak his name in his final moments? The truth beneath the earth. Jidenna went to the village elders. He had to know the truth. At first, they refused to speak, but when he pressed, one of them finally sighed. Dike and Obika were once closer than brothers, the elder admitted. But they fought over land. A terrible fight. And then Obika died. People said it was an accident, but some whispered that Dike had a hand in it. Jidenna's stomach twisted. If Dike had taken Obika's life, then his uncle had died carrying the weight of that sin. And that meant Obika's spirit was holding him back. The spirit of the betrayed. That night, Jidenna returned to the wake ground. Dike's ghost was still there, lurking in the shadows. But this time, he was not alone. Another figure stood beside him. A man with hollowed eyes and a face twisted in sorrowful rage. Obika. The two spirits stared at each other, locked in a silent battle. Jidenna stepped forward. Obika, he called. Let him go. The spirit's head snapped toward him, and suddenly, the air grew colder. The torches around the wake ground flickered wildly. He took my life, Obika whispered. He buried the truth. And now he will not cross. Jidenna swallowed. If he wronged you, let him answer for it in the afterlife. But if you keep him here, you will both be lost. Obika's eyes burned with ancient pain. The dead do not forget. The wind howled. The spirits shuddered. And for the first time, Dike spoke. I'm sorry. His voice was weak, broken. And yet, it was enough. Obika's form wavered, his rage flickering like a dying flame. And then, at last, he stepped back. The red glow in Dike's eyes faded. His body straightened. And as the first light of dawn crept over the horizon, he was gone. The keeper of the bridge. The next day, when the sun rose high above the hills of Izigu, the village buried Dike. This time, Jidenna did not smile. But as the last handful of earth was placed over his uncle's grave, he felt it. The crossing. The peace. He had spent his life attending funerals. Now, he finally understood why. He was the keeper of the bridge. And his true work had just begun. To be continued in part 3.